The Greatest Game Ever Played, directed by Bill Paxton. So, I didn't expect to make this video. When I was doing my Disney video, that was my only intention, just watching a certain amount of films and just reminding myself, and just, yeah, that was the only purpose. But I want to highlight this film because it really stuck out to me. This isn't a movie that whenever someone asks me, what was your favorite movie growing up, I mention. It's not one of those. The first things that come to mind usually are like superhero films, Pirates of the Caribbean, Indiana Jones, Jaws, Back to the Future, those types of things. But this movie is always at the back of my mind. Like sometimes I'll make references from this movie to my siblings. But that's it. Like that's like the extent of my relationship with this film. I do remember there being like a really sick montage. And again, it's just like one of those things that just lives at the back of your mind, but it's not like my favorite movie of all time. So rewatching this movie yesterday, I was really blown away because honestly, out of all the ones I rewatched, I feel like this is like the best one. And just in general, this is a really great film. This movie from top to bottom is great. It's a period piece, so the production design, the costume design, all looks great. Looks very believable. The world is very immersive of Boston at the time. It has a really good score by Brian Taylor, I believe. The acting is great. Shia is amazing. Like everyone knows that. I mean, he has his issues, but he's been a great actor since he was a little kid, and in this movie is no exception. He's really intense, really empathetic, and just really believable as this young, he's a 20-year-old as a young man, but he really conveys a boyish spirit in wanting to follow his dreams. He also portrays like the young man in him that is defying his father, and that is defending people and standing up for himself. He just does a really good balance of both as just a young man. And also, of course, the story is great, which is based on a true story, and a good one at that. It's really interesting. I'm curious actually now to read up on this true story to see just how accurate it was, because it's really interesting. So essentially, Francis we met, played by Shia LaBeouf, he's a young New England boy, and he grows up idolizing Harry Varden, who's the British champion golf player. And once he gets older, once he's about 20 years old, he gets the chance to play against him in a US championship. To put it short, that's the story. This movie is very serious. Like, think about the plot I just put out there, Like, this is a Disney film. I don't know how popular this movie was. I was a kid. But I feel like if a lot of other people really like this movie, that must have been great. And it goes to show you how movies don't need to always be for little kids. Like Disney, it seems like they choose two different paths. Either big action adventure, aka superhero films, Star Wars, or kid movies, straight up animation films. And yes, the really good animation does speak to adults. It speaks to everyone. But, right now we're talking about live action films. They don't really do any live action films anymore. That isn't a remake. I feel like they should do more films like this. More films that are maybe for older kids slash teenagers, or even just young adults that can appeal to anyone, Because this film is a period piece. It's about golf, and it's lighthearted in the sense where nothing adult happens, nothing mature happens to where a kid can't see this. It's still taken very seriously, and I think that's why this movie's so good, because it's taken serious. And there's no needless comedy in it. The romance in this film, they don't focus on that too hard or make that too dramatic to where it kind of loses focus on the real story here. The movie remains focused, and I think it has really good writing. And I just feel like going forward, that could be a good thing for Disney to try to make films more taken seriously for older kids. What really surprised me about this film is that it's really saying something, and it's spreading awareness on something, which is class, and more specifically class in the sport of golf. At least at that time, but I know golf still has like a class aspect. Like if you play golf, you're retired or you're rich. So golf still very much has that whole class aspect to it all. But especially back then, the movie does a really good job of portraying that, and it's like I said, it's like a main theme. It's like the driving force in this film. Because even Harry Varden, who's the British champion, it shows him dealing with it because he came from a poor background, and it shows Francis we met dealing with it as a young poor amateur. And it's really interesting because in Harry's case, he's the British champion, and you see how he's trying to like make it in certain golf clubs in the British Empire. And it's crazy because he's the champion and he's right here taking meetings and trying to weave his way in there. It just goes to show you on the other end how they're making exceptions for him because he's a champion, which is crazy because he's the best in the country. And in Francis' case, he's poor, he's young, and it's constantly being shown and said like, this is a gentleman's sport, not for the likes of you. And the film actually starts off with a really cool flashback of Harry Vardon as a child. It's crazy because there's a lot of interesting stuff in Harry Vardon's story, but the film's really following Francis. So it's a really good writing and just really compelling to learn more about Francis and to learn more about Harry. But anyways, the movie begins with like a little flashback of Harry in Jersey, how he's just a poor young boy and how these mysterious black dressed British men come and they're just essentially gonna knock down his house, take over the land to create a new golf course for gentlemen. It's shown very much in the perspective of a child, you know? So they appear very menacing. And yeah, they tell him right away, this is a game for gentlemen, not for the likes of you. And obviously that's like the driving force for him, you know, growing up and becoming champion. The movie does a really good artistic way. Bill Paxton does a great job directing this film. He does a really good creative choice to like make it like they're haunting him. And like he sees them appearing, like you'll see their silhouettes appearing in a teacup or something, or when he's playing golf and he's trying to focus and trying to like block out everyone, they'll appear, you know. So, and they'll appear in a very haunting, ghost-like way. So it was pretty cool. Yeah, I just feel like Bill really had a vision in this film because there's a good amount of special effects for this being a film about golf. And it's always to make things more immersive, to do like crazy camera pans, camera movements to like immerse you in the thoughts or in the feelings of the golf players. So I thought that was really cool, creative choice, and just in general, like that was really special, you know. It didn't have to do that, you know, at all. And so that was an interesting creative choice on Bill's part. And also there's a montage, as I mentioned earlier. There's a montage in the film that is just so intense. It's a montage of just like all the players in the rain. All of them are just like fighting for their lives, you know. The music's booming, the cinematography is perfect, the cutting, the editing, it's just everything is working in that montage. And yeah, as I said, as a child, I was always like, man, this is intense. And rewatching it, I'm like, dude, this thing is still awesome. It's still so intense. Like, I feel like they didn't have to go that hard for a kid's film, essentially, but it's not. As I said, this film's really taken serious, and I feel like this movie's like one of the best sports films I've ever seen, honestly. But rewatching this, I was so blown away. It's crazy that this is a Disney film from 2005. I just wanted to express it because, like I said, this one stood out the most to me. Let me know what you guys think about that movie. I don't think I've ever met anyone who's seen that movie. It's always just like I saw it growing up and it just stuck with me. So I would love to know if anyone else grew up with this movie or remembers seeing it. And yeah, your thoughts. Thanks for watching.